non-theists. I'm the Atheist Paladin. I'm going to be doing a redo on Pascal's wager and the moral imperative of hell. Blaise Pascal was born in France in 1623. And by the time he was 19, he was already one of the greatest mathematicians in Europe. But on November 23rd, 1654, Pascal had a religious experience. Nobody was sure what happened, but it changed him. So from then on, Pascal went on his task of constructing rational arguments for theism. The wager actually comes from the book Penez. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. But in English it translates The Thoughts. The book itself was never really published until after his death, and it was pretty much based on his notes. So he never really got to finish his work. The wager itself mirrors a gambler's desire to maximize long-term gains. Chance times the payoff minus by the cost equals the expected value. So one with the highest expected value is the one you're going with. According to the wager, the chances are 50-50 for atheism and theism. Now, myself and others will certainly disagree, but with this, ultimately, the chances do not matter, as I'll explain later. Dr. Morrison in Philosophy for Dummies, when explaining the wager, says that the chances are like this because the wager is designed for agnostics and atheists that view the evidence for and against God as roughly equal. The wager is supposed to tip the balance and have those individuals seek out the answers and lead them to spirituality, leading them to an open mind, basically, and eventually faith. But I have to object to this for two reasons. One, it assumes that those who don't believe in a God are not open to the concept. But when is the point of praying and following the teachings of a religion that you don't believe? Just because you don't do such things is that you're unwilling to do them at all. I believe such things should be predicated by faith before they happen. It is merely being honest to yourself. Two, it makes the assumption that true belief can come from the grounds of which it's based off the fear of consequences. At most, it can lead to a biased handling of the evidence because it's in your best interest to do so, and that it at least feigning belief. But it's like a choice between taking a bullet in the head or consensual sex. You really do have a choice here. You really can take the bullet. But under these circumstances, is the sex really consensual? So belief, under duress, is it true belief? Most likely it isn't. One of the most greatest weaknesses of the wager is an inability to keep out other religions. Now granted, it wasn't meant for anything other than the tiebreaker between Christianity and atheism when the evidential considerations are equal. But Dr. Morris goes on to say that we consider the other religions, then we must weigh the evidence and the cost. But he goes on to say, Pascal thought that only the Judeo-Christian tradition qualified. In other words, we should have faith in Pascal. This simply isn't good enough. When we ignore the other religions and those who are saved for the same promises. But when the formula is set by the wager, the chance of it being true and the cost really don't matter when the payoff is infinite. Even if the chances were exceedingly small and the cost was your entire life, the expected value is still the same as the Judeo-Christian God. This is why you don't deal with infinities in mathematical formulae. The wager itself fails to give a rational reason because when compared to irrational positions for consistency, it reveals no obvious difference. Furthermore, Dr. Morris ends his chapter on Pascal's wager by saying that the wager itself offers two different worldviews. Now you can pretty much guess what the theistic package offers. But according to him, the naturalistic package offers no objective moral order, no free will, no soul, no life after death, no God, no meaning, and no hope. But if all this is, of course, hogwash, only lacking the faith in a God is necessary. The rest can be judged by its own merits. Finally, when the wager is considered an immoral judgment, it still fails to be good reason to choose heaven over hell. Even if you accept the proposition of other God, you'd still have to choose hell for a moral reason. If the good fortune that came to you as a result of the other's suffering, then it would be immoral for you to accept such an offer. This is the same for the wager. You have to accept a place of eternal pain and suffering, and that the people that ignore this will go there. So the price of accepting heaven comes at the immoral cost of accepting a place of eternal pain and suffering. No matter how you look at it, the morally consistent thing to do is go to hell, whether it be just or unjust. If hell was just, then avoiding such a thing only serves to undermine justice. If it is not just, then the God who created it is a monster and a terrorist, and you have to accept the actions of such a being, thus giving implicit support for torture and suffering. But the greatest problem is that many actually give explicit support to such a system because they use such tools as hell as a reason as fostering belief. But nevertheless, a God which is all-powerful and all-knowing can develop a system for which there is no hell, to which in choosing to follow him and not choosing to follow him has no consequences. Otherwise, it ultimately undermines the notion of free will, and it comes at the cost of morality. So if you undermine free will, you undermine morality. And this is what the ultimate failure of the wager does. It does not allow to an actual free choice, because not choosing comes at a severe consequence. So this is my presentation. So remember, people, rationality leads to the path of righteousness.